realist evaluation, we spend a lot of time first building sort of what we call in our language a theory, which is not necessarily a grand unified theory, but a program theory, yeah, a middle range theory. So you remember that a middle range theory differs from a grand unified theory in the sense that it does not explain all human behavior. It is context sensitive, it is context informed, but it's not just for one specific context. It's for several possible, what they call sometimes an analytical generalizability. We already heard about that. So a result of that sort of analytical generalizability could be a middle range theory. So so for example, performance-based financing could work for, may not work for higher professionals because financial incentives may not satisfy their needs, something like that. So it is somewhat context informed. Actually, ideally it should be even more context informed. It should be even more granular than this. Yeah. But the takeaway message is, see, each one of these questions I am just specifying a takeaway message from the realist evaluation class. The takeaway message from this is that in the realist view, or in several social science disciplines, we work not with grand unified theories, but it is possible to make explanatory theories to explain certain regularities that we see, which are context specific. Those are the middle range theories. The classical question that realist evaluation tries to answer about any policy or program could be framed as, yeah?
Why and how?
Correct. So a program or policy works for whom and at what conditions and why, right? That's very clear. See, that's the starting point and the ending point of a realist evaluation. The answer to that is basically your theory. Why do programs or policies work for some people and only under some conditions? What are those conditions? Who are those people and why for them and not for others? Okay. Fourth one. Statement A. Is it true or false? Realist evaluation is based on the use of qualitative methods. True? Okay. Maybe I should have made it even more specific. The answer I was expecting is, it's not only based on qualitative, then it would have been false. It is based to a large extent on qualitative methods, but the underlying message here is that it is method neutral. Okay, you can use quantitative methods, you can use surveys, it's method neutral, it's an approach. So you can use qualitative or quantitative as long as you are answering the question what works for whom and what conditions. But that said, remember that it's not inspired by the philosophies that guide quantitative methods. So it can never be a pure, for example, can there be a randomized control trial for a realist evaluation? People have tried to have such debates, but the consensus is that you can't do an RCT in a realist. So that said, qualitative methods are an important component, but need not be the only. B. Realist evaluation can be used to compare effectiveness of intervention across different contexts. False. Realist evaluation, or rather theory-driven inquiry, the larger school to which it belongs, is not concerned with effectiveness. It is not trying to see, does something work better, does X work better than Y? Does performance-based financing work better than something else? So there are various very good methods available for that. For example, economic approaches come to mind. But the realist approach is crucial in understanding the mechanism of change in performance-based financing. Many people would argue that the fact that we are concerned about mechanisms of change here makes us not too worried about how well are we measuring effectiveness. We will perhaps be less rigorous on that front in the realist evaluation view. The understanding here is that we are much more tilted not in favor of effectiveness, but in favor of conditions and mechanisms and context and the interplay. Just for the sake of having a sort of a contrast, I would counterposition economic approaches as being very strong in looking at effectiveness. I want to show a few steps in a realist evaluation. Classically, if X input leads to A effect, Y input leads to B effect. This is a classical experimental setup. Did X lead to A and did Y lead to B, and is X better or is X more effective than Y? Is a classic design that fits an experimental setup. Now, Vikramaditya, you can choose to do a realist in this. You can certainly choose. Nobody is going to say you will not get towards effectiveness. But there will be people who will say, look, this design doesn't fit that. And I will agree with them, because this setup is not to answer is X more effective than Y. It is to answer under what condition X works, under what condition Y works.
Yeah.
Okay. So we leave it at that, assuming that it's not so black and white. See, mechanisms which are human behavioral tendencies manifest only in some contexts and not in others. Mechanism is a human, something that exists within us that needs certain conditions to manifest. Okay. So they will manifest only in some contexts and not in others. Rings true. Okay. Last one. Realist evaluation does not care about the outcome but only about the process. Yeah. True. Any truths? Yeah. So remember that for this the underlying thing was C, M, and O. You have to remember. No, it does not care is a too strong thing. Because to do the evaluation, you need to at least have the outcome. Maybe you didn't measure it yourself, but you need to start from some change. Okay, here is a manager who did change. Here is a manager who did not change. So why did he change? Why did he not change? Right? So it's a bit in the framing, but yeah. CMO. So the thing is, that's where this is the mechanism, something within human behavior, and this is the context. This is the intervention. It's the interplay between the C, M, and O that a realist evaluation is interested in. Why did this change occur in some contexts and not in others? That means there is an inherent need to start with some outcome. The philosophical basis for realist evaluation is provided by critical realism, Roy Bhaskar. Okay. Critical realism is the philosophical foundation on which it's based, and realist evaluation is more the approach within policy. Theory-driven inquiry is a school of approaches. It's a larger school of approaches where you are saying that there is, I would like to unearth an underlying explanation for why people behave in a certain manner in certain conditions. So this, just to lay out the broad takeaway lessons from the realist evaluation lecture. One, realist evaluation is one among various evaluation approaches. It's not trying to say that this is the best evaluation for any setting. So you have to know which is the setting where realist evaluation can be used. There is some way of getting to know differences in outcomes, right? There is some expectation that there will be different outcomes, and you want classically an explanation. This would fall within exploratory, explanatory, not purely exploratory, somewhat exploratory but explanatory sort of questions you can use realist evaluation. Second takeaway message is about C, M, and O. In a realist evaluation, we are looking for the interplay between context, mechanism, and outcome. So how do we really start it? Do we measure mechanism? Do we measure context? Do we measure outcome? One way of doing it is purposive selection of contrasting cases. You say, okay, it worked for some, not for others. So that is the outcome positive, outcome negative, and track back. What were the contextual elements here? What were the contextual elements there? And use your program theory as a guidance. Okay, the program expected that it will work for these people because of A, B, and C, but was that true? Were these contexts made here? Did the program influence the context? Did it take away adverse contexts and make it easy for doctors to then change their prescription behavior? So you start, this is the positivist nature, where you start testing, where you start becoming deductive about your thing. Third takeaway message is that realist evaluation is resource intensive, as is very clear. It's not a quick and dry evaluation where you can go once in the beginning and once at the end. It is iterative. You have to keep going and checking whether your theory is explaining, whether all contextual elements are known, and you have to keep improving. Okay. So these are the three takeaway messages about realist evaluation. Okay, then let me quickly say what we did. There is, I tried to put together a protocol of a realist evaluation. It's not the most easiest paper to read, or it's not the most prescribed approach, because it is, as you must have guessed, there were several deviations from this protocol, because it's not a hard science where you clearly describe your steps. But what the initial understanding was, if I put my assumptions together as a paper in the beginning. So it helps to know how much the evaluation helped over time. The question I was grappling with was, there are various capacity building programs, right? So there was an opportunity for me to sort of look at whether organizations change in response to these training programs and in response to these NRHM's new resources. So in one district in Karnataka, I tried to understand capacity building and organizational change. So capacity building is somewhat the input. Organizational change is the expected outcome, that people will take these inputs, DHOs, program officers will take these skills and knowledge and they will change their organizations, the indicators will improve, financial utilization will improve, etc. So I represented that first as a program theory. So in the left side of your thing is, so here is the input of the training. So this is some sort of a program logic. So here is the input, which when given to individuals in talukas and districts is expected to increase the knowledge and skills, and that increased knowledge and skills are likely to be applied, right? That's the usual assumption of training. So we said no, but then there has to be an intention. People have to say, fine, I went to training program, it's not just because I went to training that I'll automatically apply. It's not an injection, right? That will have an effect. So we said, okay, that the person has to make an intention to make change, and that will lead to all this. To this we loaded things that explain intention to make positive change. There is a lot of literature outside of medicine and public health, in organizational sciences and psychology, where people talk about commitment, motivation, all of these things. So I will not explain how we zeroed in on this particular theory, but there was a rigorous process of choosing whether this theory is appropriate for this program or not. But we chose the theory of commitment. How do people relate to their organization? We said that's very important if somebody intends to make a change in their facility. If somebody is saying, I'm here, if I get a better job, I'll go somewhere else. For example, if that's the nature of commitment, then it's tough for him to take on transformational activities in this organization, right? So we said commitment is needed to know, and then we also said efficacy. The training has to improve the confidence of the person in applying it, not only knowledge and skill. So there's also something called self-efficacy, which has been a lot of work done on self-efficacy, even at the level of cognitive levels. Like fMRI studies have been done to show that confidence is separate, self-efficacy is separate from improved knowledge and skills. So we took that and we said, let's measure this. That's where I said the method neutral nature of realist evaluation comes. So these were measured as numbers in a very positivist way. But we also loaded it with several different types of contextual elements. What are the decision spaces available for managers? Do they perceive that if I make a PIP, if I put the effort, it will actually be my plan, or is my state MD NRHM going to say, "Arey, these district fellows don't know much, you just make a different plan." How do they perceive this? So we did a lot of over 3-4 cycles of interviews to understand district support for change, the style of supervision people received. New BPMs are going into teams which are dominated by doctors. Are they likely to manifest their knowledge and skills in a team which is led by a doctor who has 25 years of experience, is a fresh contractual appointment employee, going to be able to manifest his change processes? So we said these are all important contextual elements. We looked at all of this, and based on this, if you are interested in how this kind of context mechanism outcome interplay happened, you can look at this. We basically looked at managers who were able to make change, managers who were not able to make change, and we compared and contrasted. Is it because this manager allowed BPMs to, his distance between him and the BPM was low? Is it because his nature of commitment was different? Is it because he was more self-efficacious? You see? So we had all those theories that could explain, I'll just finish, could explain the different behavior. And then we started comparing, contrasting, and testing this theory in different contexts in a given district. Based on that, we arrived at what works for whom and what kind. So it's a theory which explains why some people respond positively to training programs and some people don't respond positively to training programs. in a decentralizing health context that we have. Yeah. Okay, so based on this, for example, there were just to give you a contrast, in some talukas, people responded like this. You can, in these verbatims, the purpose of putting them is to show you how much perceptions actually show an underlying reality. So here it says, in my taluka, I think we can make big change. It's not that everybody in my taluka want to make changes. Only 1/3 of them are motivated, and that is enough. I think I can make a lot of improvement by motivating these people. This is what one taluka health manager said, and he was also very positive. More resources. He was referring to NRHM, he or she. More resources mean more change. If they slowly give more and more power to us at taluka level, we can make many improvements. Right now, very little is possible at taluka level. He was very optimistic. Contrast it with this. All these people are neighboring talukas which received the same intervention. Said, what PIP, what decentralization? I sent so many requirements for staff and proposals for improvement. Only thing I got is more work, less staff, zero solutions. On one hand, I have to answer the local Zilla Panchayat members' complaints, and on the other hand, I have to just keep implementing plans and schemes coming from above. Nothing can be done without more staff. Can you imagine? Of course, these are just verbatims, these are just interview responses. But can you imagine the worldviews and convictions that are lying behind this? And these are the ones that guide action. So this person at the helm of affairs in one taluka and those people at the helm of the affairs in the other taluka are likely to respond very differently to new resources, to new interventions, right? So these are some verbatims from the initial program theory guiding days. Another taluka. Nothing much can be done without giving powers to taluka level. So these are all people who are having their folk theories. They feel that this thing will not work because of various reasons. So interventions, to wrap up, interventions, policies, programs, all depend on varying kinds of strong perceptions, convictions, and theories that people have. So in the realist evaluation, what are we trying to do? We are trying to say this reality exists with any people. Let me try and understand first why this program will work or will not work. Let me try and introduce and see whether the larger body of knowledge has theories that can help me. And using that, build my initial theory and then refine it to get a better understanding of why this program works or does not work. Okay? So I'll leave it at that. I think what we have achieved is some degree of understanding, some degree of common understanding between all of us as to what is possible with the realist evaluation and what is not. I think if that much is achieved, it's okay. I would like to end with a short, there are more verbatim. So if you see in the verbatim, there are more, in the presentation there are more quotations if you are interested in that. So I think when to use RE we did. There is introductory videos by Ray Pawson. I'll put them up in the discussion forum. In 20 minutes, he explains how he thinks realist evaluation is useful. There is for those of you who are on social media, there is something at Realist Eval on Twitter, which I manage, and I tweet about new studies on realist evaluation. There is a reading list. You can't see it because it's in a terrible color here, but I'll put it up on the Moodle later. And to end is, I thought, this nice quotation from Eliot.